He was a fine actor, and I liked him very much, but I can't remember that we ever had dinner together or saw each other.
He was massive. Ingrid Bergman confesses everything in her memoir. Ingrid Bergman was born on August 29, 1915, in Stockholm, Sweden. She grew up in a world far removed from the glitter of show business. Her early life was marked by tragedy. She lost her mother at the age of 3, and her beloved father, a photographer who had instilled in her an early love of images and performance, died when she was just 12. Orphaned and shy, she was raised by relatives but found her escape and her calling on the stage. Despite her quiet demeanor, Bergman displayed early on an extraordinary ability to express emotion, and she pursued acting with unwavering determination. She studied at the prestigious Royal Dramatic Theatre School in Stockholm, which had also trained Greta Garbo, another Swedish legend. Her talent quickly set her apart, and before long she was appearing in Swedish films, where her luminous presence and natural acting style drew critical acclaim. One of her early breakthrough roles came in the 1936 Swedish film Intermezzo, which would later catapult her to international stardom when it was remade in Hollywood. In 1939, at the invitation of producer David O. Selznick, Bergman arrived in Hollywood to star in the American version of Intermezzo, a love story, opposite Leslie Howard. With her soft, unaffected beauty, gentle accent, and sincere performances, she stood in stark contrast to the more stylized stars of the day. Audiences were captivated, and Ingrid quickly became one of the most sought-after actresses of the early 1940s. Her rise was swift and dazzling. Over the next few years, she starred in a string of classic films that showcased her range and emotional depth. Among her most iconic performances was her role as Ilse Lund in Casablanca, 1942, opposite Humphrey Bogart. The film has since become one of the most beloved in cinema history, and Bergman's portrayal of a woman torn between love and duty is central to its enduring appeal. Her radiant face, especially in the poignant scenes at Rick's Cafe, is forever etched in the memory of moviegoers worldwide. Bergman's work during this period earned her widespread acclaim and multiple Academy Award nominations. In 1944, she won her first Academy Award for Best Actress for her riveting performance in Gaslight, where she portrayed a woman slowly driven to believe she is going insane. The psychological intensity and vulnerability she brought to the role displayed her remarkable dramatic skill. This was followed by other memorable roles, including in Alfred Hitchcock's Notorious, 1946, where she starred opposite Cary Grant in a complex tale of espionage, passion, and betrayal, once again proving her ability to command the screen with elegance and emotional truth. She followed her heart and moved to Italy, collaborating with Rossellini on a series of neo-realist films, including Stromboli, 1950, Europa 51, and Journey to Italy. While these films were not commercial hits at the time, they were later recognized for their influence on modern cinema and their bold experimentation. After several years abroad, Bergman made a triumphant return to American cinema in 1956 with her performance in Anastasia, for which she won her second Academy Award. This time, a symbolic welcome back from the industry that had once shunned her. She continued to act in both European and American films, proving herself time and again as one of the most versatile and fearless actresses of her generation. She also received acclaim on the stage and in television, including her Emmy-winning performance in A Woman Called Golda, where she portrayed Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir. Throughout her career, Ingrid Bergman was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, winning 3, along with 2 Emmy Awards, a Tony Award, and countless other honors. She acted in 5 languages and worked with some of the greatest directors of the 20th century, including Alfred Hitchcock, Ingmar Bergman, no relation, and Sidney Lumet. But beyond the accolades, it was her unmistakable sincerity and quiet dignity that endeared her to audiences across generations. Ingrid Bergman was a woman who lived boldly, acted brilliantly, and refused to be confined by the narrow expectations of her time. Even when scandal threatened to overshadow her accomplishments, she never compromised her integrity or her devotion to her craft. In her personal life, she experienced profound highs and painful lows, marriages, divorces, motherhood, and illness. But she faced them all with remarkable poise. Ingrid Bergman, the acclaimed Swedish actress renowned for her beauty and talent, first married Petter Aron Lindström in 1937. Lindström was a respected medical professional, specifically a neurosurgeon, which reflected a very different world from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood and international cinema that Bergman inhabited. Their marriage, while initially stable and seemingly conventional, was marked by the complexities of Bergman's rising stardom and her increasing immersion in the film industry. Together, Ingrid and Petter Lindström had one daughter, Pia Lindström, born in 1938, who would later become a successful television journalist and news anchor herself. Despite the outward appearance of a traditional family, the couple's relationship eventually became strained, largely due to the demands of Bergman's career and the personal challenges she faced as she grew older and more internationally prominent. During the late 1940s, Ingrid Bergman's life took a dramatic turn when she developed a romantic relationship with the Italian filmmaker Roberto Rossellini. Rossellini was a prominent and highly influential director, famous for his role in pioneering Italian neorealist cinema. Their affair began while Bergman was still married to Lindström, a fact that stirred considerable scandal at the time. This relationship was both passionate and controversial, as it crossed the boundaries of societal expectations of marriage and fidelity. The affair became public knowledge after Bergman gave birth to Rossellini's child, a daughter named Isabella Rossellini, born in 1952. The birth of this child symbolized a significant rupture in Bergman's personal life and sparked intense media scrutiny and public debate. Following the birth of Isabella, Ingrid Bergman divorced Petter Lindström in 1950, ending their 13-year marriage. Shortly thereafter, Bergman and Rossellini formalized their union by marrying in Mexico. Their marriage marked a new chapter in Bergman's life, one deeply entwined with Rossellini's cinematic vision and Italian culture. The couple had two more children together, Roberto Ingmar Rossellini, born in 1954, and Isotta Ingrid Rossellini, born in 1956. Despite their creative collaborations and the growth of their family, the marriage faced numerous challenges, including professional pressures, cultural differences, and the intense public scrutiny following their earlier scandal. Ultimately, Bergman and Rossellini divorced in 1957, bringing to an end a complex and influential partnership that had left an indelible mark on both their personal lives and cinematic histories. In 1958, just a year after her divorce from Rossellini, Ingrid Bergman married Lars Schmidt, a Swedish theatrical entrepreneur and impresario. Schmidt was instrumental in promoting Bergman's theatrical work in Europe, and their relationship provided a more stable and private personal environment for the actress after years of public controversy. Their marriage endured for nearly 2 decades, from 1958 until 1975. During this time, Bergman balanced her career with her personal life and found support in Schmidt's dedication to the arts and his management of theatrical productions. However, as with many long marriages, their relationship eventually came to an end in divorce, closing yet another chapter in Bergman's complicated and multifaceted personal life. When Ingrid Bergman spoke of Gregory Peck in her memoir, she didn't merely refer to his physical stature, though that, in itself, was unforgettable. "He was massive," she wrote, and the word echoed with far more than just a comment on his height or broad-shouldered build. It was a statement heavy with awe, admiration, and something almost confessional, as though recalling a presence that had once overwhelmed her. Physically, Gregory Peck was the embodiment of classic Hollywood masculinity. Towering over most of his contemporaries, his commanding frame often left a lasting impression on both audiences and co-stars alike. Bergman, a woman who had worked with legends across continents, from Humphrey Bogart to Cary Grant, still found herself struck by the sheer presence Peck exuded the moment he walked onto a set. He didn't enter a room, she noted. He filled it. His physicality was statuesque, almost Roman in its nobility, yet it was never intimidating. There was a gentleness in his posture, an elegance to his movements that softened the brute strength his body projected. But when Bergman said massive, she was also referring to his soul. Peck's moral compass, his quiet intensity, and the profound integrity with which he carried himself, all of it added up to something enormous. He had a gravity about him, she remembered, as if the very air listened when he spoke. She described how, during even the most mundane conversations, he had the ability to make you feel as though your words mattered deeply. You couldn't lie to him, she confessed. He had eyes that saw through you, and not in a way that made you feel exposed, but in a way that made you want to be honest. Their time working together, on screen and off, was filled with a tension that hovered between professional admiration and a powerful, unspoken chemistry. There were moments, Bergman admitted, when I'd look at him across the scene, and I would forget my lines, not out of nervousness, but because I was genuinely transported by the man before me. It wasn't lust, she described, but rather a reverence, a kind of emotional surrender to someone who seemed carved out of something timeless. Bergman also recalled how Peck bore the weight of his fame with a humility that impressed her deeply. In a world where vanity was a survival skill, Gregory remained rooted. He never needed to be the loudest voice in the room, she wrote. His silence often said more than 100 speeches. She observed that he took his roles seriously, not for the glory, but because he saw acting as a way to tell the truth, even if it was fiction. He believed in goodness, not the naive kind, but the hard-won kind, the kind you fight for, scene after scene. In her memoir, Bergman revealed that working with Gregory Peck made her feel challenged, seen, and ultimately changed. He left an imprint on me, she reflected, not just as an actor, but as a woman. He reminded me that greatness isn't about perfection, but about presence. Gregory was present, in the deepest, most magnificent sense of the word. So when she wrote, "He was massive," it was not a throwaway phrase, not a tabloid headline. It was a summation of a man whose magnitude touched her in more ways than she had ever anticipated, physically, emotionally, artistically, and spiritually. During the theatrical run of The Constant Wife in London in the early 1970s, Ingrid Bergman's life took a dramatic and unforeseen turn. It was during this period, when she was still commanding stages with the same magnetism that had long defined her film career, that she noticed a troubling physical anomaly, a hard lump under her left breast. Despite being in the midst of an intense performance schedule, Bergman, known for her discipline and attention to detail, acted swiftly. On 15th of June 1974, she underwent surgery at a private London clinic to have the lump removed. Though the operation was kept relatively quiet, this marked the beginning of a long and difficult battle with breast cancer, one that she chose to fight with grace, courage, and an unwavering commitment to her craft. The cancer, however, was not done with her. Years later, while immersed in the emotionally demanding filming of Autumn Sonata, a film that would become one of her most powerful and critically acclaimed performances, Bergman once again felt an ominous lump. This second discovery prompted her to urgently return to London, where she underwent yet another surgery. The experience was particularly symbolic. Even as her body was fighting a terminal disease, she gave one of the most raw, complex, and vulnerable performances of her career under the direction of Ingmar Bergman, no relation, in a role that seemed to mirror the emotional trials of her real life. After the surgery and recovery, demonstrating her indomitable spirit and tireless work ethic, Bergman immediately began rehearsals for Waters of the Moon, a 1978 television adaptation, refusing to let her illness define or limit her. Despite the ongoing progression of her disease, Bergman continued to take on meaningful roles, including one of the most significant of her late career, the portrayal of Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir in the 1981 television film A Woman Called Golda. The choice was daring and deeply moving. Bergman was now frail, her face altered by treatments and time, yet she inhabited Meir's persona with profound strength and dignity. Filming was grueling, and the toll on her health was immense, but she completed the project with characteristic professionalism. The performance would earn her posthumous Emmy and Golden Globe awards, a final affirmation of her towering legacy in dramatic arts. Following this, Bergman retired from the public stage to her London apartment in the elegant neighborhood of Cheney Gardens, situated near the River Thames. The area was known for its artistic residence and tranquil charm, but for Bergman, it became a place of solitude and silent struggle. There, she began undergoing regular chemotherapy treatments. The once radiant star who had captivated millions now faced the disease with a quiet stoicism. Paparazzi and fans frequently gathered outside her building, camping on the pavement in hopes of a glimpse of the legendary actress. Aware of their presence but unwilling to allow them to see her weakened state, she avoided the front window. The illness had now ravaged her body. The cancer had metastasized to her spine, collapsing her 12th vertebra, causing her great pain and limiting her mobility. Her right lung had ceased functioning entirely, and only a portion of her left lung remained operational. Yet, even in these darkest days, she never surrendered her inner strength. Ingrid Bergman passed away in London just after midnight on 29 August 1982, poignantly on her 67th birthday. Her death came peacefully, surrounded by people she loved. Her ex-husband, the Swedish theatrical producer Lars Schmidt, with whom she had remained on warm and affectionate terms, was at her bedside, along with 3 others. That evening, hours before her passing, they had shared a final toast in her honor, an intimate and symbolic gesture full of bittersweet celebration and impending loss. By her bedside was a copy of The Little Prince, the philosophical novella by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. The book, cherished by Bergman for its themes of innocence, loss, and the unseen essence of things, lay open to a page near the end, perhaps a final quiet reflection of her soul's journey. Her memorial service took place in October at the historic St. Martin-in-the-Fields Church in London. It was a solemn, elegant affair attended by 1,200 mourners from all corners of the world. Among them were her 3 children, including Isabella Rossellini, who had already begun making her own mark in film, the extended Rossellini family, and relatives who had flown in from Sweden to say goodbye to one of their brightest stars. The service also drew an extraordinary assembly of luminaries from the performing arts. Distinguished actors and lifelong colleagues such as Liv Ullmann, Sir John Gielgud, Dame Wendy Hiller, Birgit Nilsson, and Joss Ackland were all present, each paying tribute in their own silent ways. Passages from Shakespeare were read aloud during the service, echoing Bergman's deep roots in classical theater. Musical selections included the playful tune This Old Man, famously featured in the Inn of the Sixth Happiness, and the hauntingly nostalgic As Time Goes By, immortalized by Bergman's own voice in Casablanca, a song that seemed to encapsulate the arc of her life and career. Her grandson, Justin Daly, later recalled the overwhelming chaos and emotion of that day. Hundreds of photographers swarmed the site, jockeying for position, flashing cameras as mourners tried to grieve. Daly remembered being struck on the head by a camera in the frenzy. But amid the pain and confusion, he experienced a sudden, profound realization that Ingrid Bergman was no longer just his grandmother. In the middle of all this chaos, he said, I could sense that she wasn't just my grandmother. She belonged to everyone else. She belonged to the world. It was a sentiment shared by millions. Ingrid Bergman was not only a mother, a grandmother, or a friend. She was an icon whose artistry, bravery, and humanity had touched every corner of the globe.